Hey everyone, it's Akshay here and welcome to this video series where we'll be creating the water cycle in Ready. So let's take a look at the final project. So here we have the sun, and here we have different background items to decorate, and here we have water droplets. So let me restart the scene. So once we hit play, we can see that I can move the sun around and evaporate these rain droplets to go up, and once enough rain has collected at the top, has condensed, we can click on the clouds and it will start precipitating. And once we move the sun up to the clouds, it stops raining and the water droplets are back at the bottom. So now we can do this again by evaporating the water. It condenses at the top, the clouds form. Once we click on the clouds, it starts raining, and once we move the sun back up to the clouds, it stops raining, and there we go. The start of the water cycle again. So let's take a look at the steps we need to take in order to make this. So in slide 3 of the presentation, you can see the steps to build this project. In step 1, we'll make the sun object and give it the drag behavior so we can move it around the scene. In step 2, we'll add the raindrop object and turn on physics so it drops. In step 3, we'll give the raindrop behaviors and create the raindrop class since we're going to have many raindrop objects. In step 4, we'll add a top object and adjust its position and size to fit the width of the screen. The top object is right behind these clouds right here. In step 5, we'll give the top shape a counter behavior and rain effect to be activated whenever enough water droplets collect at the top and we click on the clouds. In step 6, we'll add our first event 1, which says move drops up when touched by the sun. And this is when you saw me moving the sun across the bottom of the screen. Whenever the sun hit the water droplets, they were moving up to the clouds. In step 7, we'll add the cloud and set it to hidden and add it to the cloud class since we're going to have multiple clouds covering up the top object. In step 8, we'll place the cloud in the UI layer and stretch it and copy. We'll have it in the user interface layer so it doesn't interact with any objects in the scene, and because we will be interacting with it and clicking on it after it has condensed. In step 9, we'll add event number 2, add 1 to the top counter when collided with drop. So whenever the sun moves across the bottom and the water droplets hit the top object, this will add 1 to its counter. Event 3 will say, whenever the counter reaches a certain number, it will display the clouds on top. In step 11, we'll say start rain when the clouds are touched. In step 12, event number 5, we'll say clear the sky when the sun touches top. We'll move the sun to the top and it'll clear the sky. In step 13, we'll make the top object 0% opacity and decorate our scene. So why we want to make it 0% opacity is whenever we start the scene, the clouds are going to be hidden. So we don't want to see that rectangle being seen under the cloud, so we'll set the opacity to 0. And we'll decorate our scene as I did with mine by adding different plants at the bottom or anything you want to do. So let's go ahead and get started in making the water cycle. Okay, so here I have a new project. In step 1, let's add our sun object. Let's go into the library, go into basic shapes, and here let's drag out a circle. Let's go into its appearance, name it sun, turn off its solid property, and change its color to a yellowish orange. That should be good. And let's give it the behavior drag. Once you've added this behavior and click play, you can see that you can move around the sun freely. Since it's really big, let's also make this a little bit smaller. And once you have that done, you'll be done with step 1. Now in step 2, let's add the raindrop object. Go into library, go into artwork, and search for raindrop. Once you find the raindrop, let's drag it into the scene. Let's go into its appearance and set show an event manager to off, because we don't want to see every single raindrop we have in the event manager while we're making our logic. Next, let's turn on its general physics by going into physics and setting active to on. And once you're done with that, you're done with step 2. So in step 3, let's give the raindrop a behavior. Let's click on the raindrop, go to behaviors, add a new behavior, and let's add the stay in frame behavior. Now once we have this, you can see that the current reaction is wrap around. What this will do is if we play it, the physics gravity is on, so it starts falling and it starts from the top again after it hits the bottom. We don't want that to happen, however, so let's go into the behaviors again and set this reaction to stop. So whenever it hits the bottom of the screen, it stops. Now we need to create the raindrop class. So click on the raindrop, go to classes, and press create new class. Here type in raindrop and click save class. Now it should be in the raindrop class. Now after you've created the raindrop class and put the raindrop in the class, let's create many duplicates of this raindrop object. Let's duplicate it 9 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And now let's move them across the screen. Once you've set up your raindrop objects, you'll be done with step 3. Now let's add the top object. This object will be an object that will catch the rain droplets. So let's go into our library, go into basic shapes, and drag into our scene a rectangle. Here we go. Now let's give it a light blue color in appearance. That should be good, as it doesn't matter anyway since we'll be setting the opacity to 0 at the end. But let's set its rotation to 90 degrees and increase its height. Now since we rotated it, the width is going to be the height, so let's increase this to cover the width of our screen. We need to make it a little bit longer, and that should be good. Now once you have it long enough, just move it to the very top. And be sure to name it top. Once you're done with this, you'll be done with step 4. In step 5, we'll give the top object a behavior and effect. So let's go into the top object, go to behaviors, and add the counter behavior. Let's change the display value to off. Let's go into effects and add a new effect. Let's add the rain effect. And let's set this default to off, because we don't want it to start raining every time we start the scene. So let's keep it off. And once you're done with that, you'll be done with step 5. So in step 6, we'll add our first event by saying whenever the sun touches a rain droplet, the rain droplet gravity is set to off, and we add a force for it to go up. So let's go into our events manager and say when raindrop class senses touching object sun, the affected object from class raindrop, physics, set gravity, no, and let's have the affected object from raindrop class, physics, add relative force up 5 newtons. And now if we check it out, let's press done, press play. Water droplets have fallen, and if we move the sun across and touch each water droplet, they move to the top of the screen. It works perfectly. There we go, and now we're done with step 5. So now we're at step 7, we'll add the cloud object. So let's go into our library, and in artwork, under scene, we'll find cloud 3 and cloud 4. You can pick any cloud you want, but I'll be going with cloud 3. So let's drag this in and set its default appearance to be hidden. And let's also create a cloud class by going into classes, create new class, and let's name this cloud. And let's save the class. And now we'll be done with step 7. In step 8, we want to place the cloud object in the UI layer, and we want to cover up the top object with these cloud objects. So first, let's go into appearance and set its layer to user interface. Next, I want to make this cloud a little bit bigger, and now create a few duplicates of this cloud and move it on top to cover the top object. If you feel like you don't have enough clouds, just create another copy and cover it up. That should be good. And then you will be done with step 8. In step 9, we'll be adding our second event. So let's go into event and say add new event. And now if this happens, just click the plus button down here, and that should add the when box up here if it's not there in the first place. So now we'll say when any raindrop senses is collided with the top object, the top object's counter 1 adds 1 to its value. And we'll be done with step 9. For step 10, we'll display the clouds whenever this counter goes above a certain value. Now since we have 10 rain droplets, we'll say that whenever the counter goes above 9, we'll display the clouds. So we'll say this by adding a new event and saying when top object counter is greater than 9, confirm, we'll have everything in the cloud class appearance set hidden to no. So now let's test this out. Let's press done, press play, and we see the top object right now, which will set the opacity to 0 at the end. But let's move the sun across. Now the counter goes up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now it's still not greater than 9. Once we go over the 10th rain droplet, it becomes 9, and now you can see the clouds up here. So there we go, and now we'll be done with step 10. So for step 11, we want it to rain whenever the clouds are touched. So let's go into the event manager and say add new event and say when the cloud class senses is being touched down, we'll have all the raindroplets in the raindrop class, physics, set gravity to yes so they fall back down, and we'll have the top object's raindrops effect set active to yes. So if we press done and play, we see that whenever we move these rain droplets to the top and we click the clouds, it starts raining and the gravity is set back on to these rain droplets so they fall back down. And then it will be done with step 11. So for step 12, we want to clear the sky whenever the sun touches the top object. So let's go into the event manager and let's add a new event that says when the sun senses is touching object, the top object, we want first all the clouds to disappear, so cloud class, appearance, set hidden to yes. Next we want the rain effect to stop, so let's say the top object's raindrop effect set active to no, and we want the counter to restart since the rain droplets fell back to the ground. So let's choose an object, go into top, go into its counter, and let's set the value back to 0 and press confirm. So we can do the cycle all over again. And then you'll be done with step 12. Now we are at the last step, step 13. This is just to decorate our project and make it look better. First off, if we press play, we obviously see this top bar. So let's make this transparent. We can do this by setting the opacity of the top bar, which if we press multiple times here, we can select. There we go. Now if you go into appearance, you can see that the top bar is selected. We can go into its opacity and turn it all the way down to 0. So now if we press play, you can see that you can no longer see the top bar. Awesome. So now let's drag in a background. Let's go into our library, go into backgrounds, and I'll be adding the grass background again. Here's the grass background, let's drag it in, and here we have the grass background. Now we can also add decorations if you like. I'll go into the library and add some plants. So let's go into the artwork, And to make this quick, I'll just be adding, let's say, a few daisies and flower bushes. Now, you want to make sure that these objects are in the background layer so that they don't interfere with the rain droplets. Once you've set them to the background layer, you can create many duplicates of them and move them around anywhere you like. And let's move these daisies around as well. And now let's test out our final project. Let's press play. The water droplets fall, they precipitate. We use our sun to evaporate and condensate into clouds at the top. And once we click the clouds, it starts raining, the raindrops fall down again, and it precipitates. And once we move the sun back up to the clouds, it stops raining, and the process starts all over again. So there you have it. That is how to create the water cycle activity in Ready. Hope you enjoyed. Be sure to check out more activities in the Ready website, and I'll see you in the next video.